Tell me something, girl. Are you living in this modern world?
I got no time for this. We got to get right to the show. Okay. What's up, guys? My name is Chris Tutella, alongside, once again, my creepy friend, colleague, co-host,
Ruben Borges. What's
Ruben
up, guys?
Again, his hat does not match his shirt, but he's here, he's focused.
And we're bringing it.
And he's bringing it. He's ready to go. He just watched The Star is Born, and I think he's all fired up, which is really creeping me out. He's been talking about this movie for the last 4 days.
Solid movie. It was pretty good.
Did you like it?
Yeah, didn't cry, though.
All right. Well, guys, welcome to episode number 25 of TTS Talk. 25 episodes in. Hope you guys are really enjoying the show. We got a lot of good feedback. A lot of you guys are shooting me emails, messages on Instagram. So thank you guys. We're going to keep continuing to bring the thunder for you and continuing to grow the show.
What do we got today, Coach?
All right. So here's the deal. We have a lot of people. There's a lot of people out there, I should say, that will say, I want to get bigger. I want to get stronger. I want to still get gains, so to speak. However, they have a lot of joint pain and they're dealing with a lot of joint issues, even if it's not like an actual diagnosis, whether it is or isn't, but they're feeling and experiencing a lot of joint pain. So we've talked about in the past, Ruben and I have talked about how you could use variations of lifts and all that stuff, but here's the deal. Regardless if you're using a variation of a lift or not, there are ways that you can make exercises quote unquote more joint friendly, right? And one thing that we wanted to address today is that one of the biggest issues that causes people to experience joint pain is that they go super heavy and only focus on the concentric phase of a lift, right? So for those of you who don't know, there's going to be 3 types of muscular contractions. We're going to talk about the concentric phase, which is the shortening of a muscle, the eccentric phase, which is the lengthening of a muscle, and then isometrics. And Rube, just from your experience too, like chime in here, when you go to a public gym, what would you say, just to kind of clarify with the guys at home, which type of muscular contraction are most people focused on?
They're focused on the concentric.
The concentric nervous system.
So the concentric, but also the tempo, it's 1-1. You know, so the eccentric is not where we're holding it for 2 to 4 seconds, focusing on, you know, not letting gravity take over. So basically you're seeing like 5 reps be done in exactly 10 seconds rather than be done in 15 and 20 seconds, working on controlling the rep, the contraction of the muscle group actually being worked. And the other thing that I noticed is arm angles. They're not using an optimal arm angle. You see the elbows flaring out, whether it be a press, same thing with a shoulder press. And these are probably individuals that are dealing with shoulder pain. They come back to the gym to train. They're using that same angle. Then they're hurt next week, and then they stop again.
And just working through the same shoulder pain. Like, my shoulder hurts every week. What would you do to change? Well, nothing, you know. And a lot of people, because they're only focused on the concentric phase, which let's just use a bench press as an example to just make life easy here. So the concentric phase of that lift would be the way up, right? Think of the shortening of the muscle. So the pecs are shortening, right? On the way up, on the way down, they're lengthening, which would be the eccentric phase. So most people are just focused on how much weight they can press, how much weight they can get up off of their chest. So they're going to load the bar up, and the eccentric phase basically goes out the window because now the bars, not only is the technique suck, that's another topic, but the bars crashing into their chest and they're just trying to jam that weight up, so they're smashing down into their chest. Now, by doing that, not only are you destroying your joints, but you're doing yourself a huge disservice from a training standpoint because the muscle contracts eccentrically, right? So now you're taking that phase and you're cutting it out completely, so the muscle is not going to adapt and grow the same way it would be if you were focused on the eccentric.
You're taking that stimulus away, and I think it all starts with the warming up. Like some people don't treat, I like to treat the warm-ups, treat those light weights like they're heavy. So when they are working with a bar or working with just putting tens on, you know, actively bringing that bar down, and we're using the same example as the bench press, actively bringing that bar down in the eccentric, full range, squeezing up top. Take those light weights, don't just crank them out and don't do them with the right intent. It's to get loose, to get warmed up, get blood flow to the muscle groups that are being worked. And I think that's what leads to better reps, and you don't see it up. You'd be lucky enough to see if they are warming up, but to warm up properly. And I like to think, treat light weights heavy as you're warming up.
Yeah, there's something I want to touch on there. So you said actively pulling the bar down. To use that, we're just going to stick with the bench press, right? So to actively pull the bar down, that means we have to contract the antagonistic muscle groups, right? So that is, in the example of a bench press, the musculature of the upper back. If we're going to be activating the antagonistic group, we're going to be pulling the bar down and actually contracting the upper back. Now, that's going to put our shoulders in a much safer position, but it's also going to help us focus on that eccentric portion because you're pulling the bar down and you're mindful of it. So, like you said, the mind-muscle connection is going to be enhanced because now you're focused on pulling that bar down to your chest and not just letting it crash down and then press up. Now, back to just keeping your shoulders in a safe position, you don't want your shoulders to leave the bench on a bench press. So if I'm pinning my scapula down into the bench, we had an episode on this alone, and I'm pulling the bar down, my shoulders are staying pinned on the bench. As I press up, they're here, right? And I'm not getting that full protraction. I'm keeping my scaps pinned. Now, if I just crash down, my scaps don't stay pinned on the bench. This is going to happen, right? Shoulders are going to internally rotate. Yeah, everything's gone, and I'm just crashing down. So no wonder you have shoulder pain if you're benching that way. Now, is the bench press in general the best exercise for someone with shoulder pain? No, a variation of it would be a dumbbell press with a neutral grip, some type of neutral bar like a Swiss bar or a Renegade bar like we have here.
But even with that dumbbell press, even if they're using dumbbells, you see a lot of that still happen.
Yeah, you still see the same things.
Shoulder blades pin back. So even without the bar, using dumbbell, people are not controlling back. They're not keeping the shoulder blades pinned back to the bench. One thing also what controlling the eccentric will do, it's keep that shoulder stabilized, what coach said, but keep your arm angle there. If you are crashing down, next thing you know, one arm comes up if you're using dumbbells, excuse me, or you're just kind of all over. Stability gets all over, maybe one foot is out, moving down. So you take away the training effect from the press, you're not getting
just because you're trying to push numbers.
Because you're thinking of the number rather than getting the stimulus and getting the muscle actually activated and working.
And ultimately, your numbers are going to suffer because your technique goes to shit anyway. So you're not doing yourself any benefit whatsoever. So you have to be smart about your approach. And now back to the different types of muscular contractions, right? So what could you do to make your training more efficient, right, and to save your joints for the long haul? All right, so let's talk about it portion by portion here. So let's talk about the concentric phase of the rep, right? You don't always have to slam up every fucking rep that you do. That goes for any exercise. Because, again, if you're just trying to push numbers over and over again, it's just going to be slamming your joint. So the first thing that guys or girls at home who have joint pain could do is slow down the concentric from time to time. All right? Take a couple weeks, months, and just focus on controlled reps. Okay? So on the way up, rather than just slamming the weight, you're going to focus a little bit more on a controlled concentric. Let's say 2 seconds, right? So 1,000, 2 1,000, rather than and just an explosive movement.
I think that goes a long way in helping on your training because then you're actually going to be feeling the muscle groups working. You'll get more advanced in that way and properly select weights. Obviously you're not going to go too crazy heavy because you're going to be more focused on the mind-muscle connection, which could really take you, advance you to higher levels with muscle gains and just overall training pain-free.
Yeah. So controlling the concentric for sure. And now a controlled eccentric, right? We've been talking about it all day. So same thing. Instead of, most people don't even do 1 second, right? At least 2 seconds, right? That's the standard, right? Like for any repetition, it should be at least about 2 seconds down, right? Now, if you want to really focus on controlled eccentrics, you could even do a 10-second eccentric. You could do an 8-second, right? But typically, you could work in 3 to 5 seconds, right? So now, 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. That's a much different rep, right? 3 seconds down, 2 seconds up, versus boom, boom, when your form goes to shit, right? Yes, when you're training in that way, you're going to be using a much lighter weight than you can handle. But you got to put your fucking ego in check, because your ego is just going to get you hurt. So if you focus on say if you're someone who normally presses with the 90s, if you're doing a set of 8, right, and you normally do use the 90s, you're probably going to be using like the 65s, 70s for something like that. So yes, but overall, by developing the musculature and training in that way, you're going to get stronger. So then when you do go to test a set of 8 again with a normal rep count, you're probably going to be using the 95s or the 100s for sure.
Especially if someone's not even used to training that way. That's going to be a nice little shock to your system there. Learning how to squeeze the muscle groups, control the eccentric, control even the concentric on the way up. That's going to overall increase core stability too. You're going to learn how to be stable, be balanced, and overall will help you when you get back to going on maybe a power building routine or anything like that at travels. Okay.
Our cameraman has to sneeze. Had to!
She held it in, looked like it hurt.
Yeah. She held it in and farted.
I did not.
So let's get back to business here. Enough distractions for the day.
Coach, with the eccentric and concentric, one thing I feel like people go away from this too, now we're talking about the benching too, and your basic bicep curl.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, that one's probably one of the most commonly butchered exercises.
Swinging, right?
Not realizing, the effect of bringing your shoulder blades back, fully extending your arm to a point where you're basically flexing your tricep, drawing right up and squeezing the actual bicep, not letting your shoulders take over, not letting no swinging movement come up to bring it up. That is the most optimal way to train the bicep for those of you guys who are trying to get ready for the beach in the summer. Full range, full extension, concentric, really control on the way up, squeeze that bicep up top, which might be a perfect segue for the isometric contraction. But there, your numbers, don't think about the numbers you did in high school. I'm sure everyone thinks they curled 40s, 45s, and things like that. But that bicep curl you're going to get such a great training effect from focusing on your tempo and your eccentric and concentric in the arm. Get ready for the gains to come if you learn how to properly do that.
Yeah, and also understand that when you're training in that way, right, when you're controlling the eccentric, essentially what you're doing is you're going to be creating more muscular damage, right? And as long as you could recover from the muscular damage that you're creating, right, you're going to get a growth response because the body has to adapt. So if that goes for any muscle group, right? So just understand that just because you're using a lighter weight or a lesser weight,
there's still tension.
You're not doing yourself a disservice because you're using a lighter weight. You're actually going to have more of a benefit that you see, especially if this is new for you. So control the concentric, control the eccentric. Now, isometrics. So what is an isometric? We're talking about a muscular contraction that's just a static hold. So if I were to bring the bar down on a bench press, halfway down, and I'm holding here for a prescribed amount of time, let's just say 2 to 5 seconds, that's an isometric contraction, just to give you one example. Now, again, this is another type of contraction that's really neglected, especially in the public gym, because even if there is somewhat of control that people use, they get somewhat of an eccentric, right? Or they do have to take the muscle through the lengthening phase regardless, right? On an eccentric, and everybody does a concentric, right? Everyone's working those two portions. Now, no one, hardly no one, or is
you isometric hold,
right?
Plank,
right? So, what I want you to do is focus on reps or certain exercises where you work in isometrics. So that could be, there's plenty of ways that can do this. It could be a paused squat in the bottom position. It could be a bench press where you're hovering over your chest for 2 to 5 seconds. But whatever it is, again, we're creating the same effect. We're going to be creating more muscular damage, and you're going to be strengthening not only the muscle, but the tendons, the ligaments, the soft tissue surrounding the joints.
You're going to get a nice response to the body. Your body's going to respond well. You're going to realize all that tension there. Hey, listen, we need to grow that muscle to withstand this tension being happening.
You're going to develop more well-rounded strength, right? So you're going to be protecting your joints, not only by going a little bit lighter and using more controlled reps, but you're going to be protecting the joint because of the soft tissue development that you're going to have by training in that way.
It'll improve your, sorry coach, it'll improve your mind-muscle connection as well, because then now you're realizing the muscle group that's working. Sometimes it's hard, even with isometric, to kind of feel the actual muscle group working if you haven't done it. But as you do it, you put it into your program, you do it week by week, you learn how to feel that, and then outside of isometric, when you're just hitting your normal rep scheme, you're going to really get the full effect of it, because now you know the muscle group working. You're going to learn how to actually contract the muscle group being worked, whether it be a bicep curl, chest press, squatting. One thing I've also found out, even with our members here at TTS, working an isometric hold, let's say with a goblet squat hold, or the bottom positioning of a squat with a dumbbell, or even a mace bar, which we have, or even body weight. It's a great way to kind of learn and deepen your squat. Knees are driving out. I notice people have a better time of optimizing their squat pattern and increasing their depth because of the isometric hold. They're able to hold it and learn it and hold it longer, week by week. So there is progression, a lot of progressions to come in every which way with isometric focus.
Yeah, it's a good point, because most people, if you're brand new to the training world, you don't have that body control, that body awareness yet. So if you're just rushing through reps, you're going to have a harder time understanding the quality of the movement. Now, if you just slow down the eccentric, you're going to really have an understanding of the body and how we want it to move, and an understanding of that movement pattern. The more you focused on control and slowing down the rep instead of just trying to rush through it like most people do.
Yeah, you kind of see improvement with the exercise when you start doing it that way.
Yeah.
Especially with newcomers.
Yeah, for sure. So, how could you work this into your routine? Well, guys, what you can do now is just, let's say this phase, right? Let's just say you're starting fresh today. Why don't you focus on the eccentric and isometric sides of it? So, what we can do is, for your main lifts on your day, right? So if you whatever that training day is for you, let's just say it's an upper body day, you're using a bench press, on that main lift, work in a controlled eccentric, let's just say 2 to 5 seconds, 3 seconds to make it easy. And in the bottom portion, right, you're gonna hover right above your chest, and you're gonna hold that for 2 seconds. So that could be 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. I'm not resting the bar on my chest, I'm just above it, and I'm holding 1, 2, and then I'm going to press, right? So you could start by doing that. Work in your eccentrics, work in your isometrics. Remember, you're going to have to keep the weight a little bit lighter. Then either on another exercise or the next training phase, you could then focus on more of the controlled concentric portion. So the way up, the shortening of the muscle group. So whether you want to keep the eccentric and isometric contractions at the same tempo, and now we just work in a controlled concentric as well. So instead of exploding up, it's 1, 2, and you come up with control. You can do it that way, just to give you a little simplicity there. But remember, that could be used on a big barbell lift. Those could be used on alternative movements or accessory work, right? So wherever you want to work it in, just work them in, but just be sure that you are getting that work in, because if you want to be well-rounded, if you want to be strong, if you want to build more muscle, it's necessary.
And for anyone that's beginners, like, we're talking with the weights, you can even do this body weight. It can even be done in a push-up, a body weight squat, whether it be a split squat, walking lunges, things like that. There's always a way to involve eccentric, isometric holds and controlling your tempo.
Yeah. And the main thing is that you want to train for the long haul, right? Nobody wants to get injured. Nobody wants to be in pain all the time, right? So if your joints hurt because you're just slamming weights all the time, you got to be smart and really just understand that this is going to give you not only the effects of building muscle and strength, but it's also going to protect your joints. So understand that, understand the significance here, and it's going to be a great way for you to continue to train around pain instead of just training through it.
For you guys that have been training a long time, and maybe you're not including this in your routine, or you haven't included it in your routine, this is also a way, if you're just doing your normal routine, and let's say you had an injury during the weekend, nothing too dramatic, but definitely you don't want to press a heavier weight in any form of movement. this is a way to auto-regulate, and now maybe this week, instead of pressing the 80s that you did last week and you want to go to 85, maybe just add a tempo, back down a little bit, right? Because you still want to be in the gym, you still want to get some work in and ease up on the pain, train pain-free, and just work a slow eccentric, like Coach was saying, 3 to 5 seconds, maybe an isometric hold at the bottom for 2, boom. So you're getting a great training effect while giving your joints a break, maybe to recover from maybe an injury you had on the weekend or something that bothered you. It's always a way to kind of switch it up, a little audible in the middle of your routine.
Yeah, and those of you who are really looking to prioritize strength, understand that you could do this for low reps as well. Like you could do it for a set of 3 to 5 for sure. You could work in these eccentrics.
Yeah.
Like some people, for whatever reason, will sometimes associate longer tempos with a higher rep count and kind of work them in only on higher volume days. That doesn't necessarily have to be the case because, like, you slow down that eccentric. Your percentage, if you're for more advanced people who know what their percentages are, it's going to be much lower. So working that in will absolutely help you build strength for the long haul too. So if you're a power lifter, if you're an athlete, this is just as important for you as the older lifter who's a little bit more beat up.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, Coach, I think it's a great way also for starters to get started when people are just learning how to train. Look it up, focus, eccentric movements. That'll help you learn all the important movement patterns a lot faster and have you optimally perfect them a lot better. So talk about the squat, the lunge, the hip hinge, horizontal vertical presses, horizontal vertical pulls. All of that, work eccentric, control the eccentrics, especially getting started. Just realize as you do that, it'll help you perfect that movement a lot better and then get ready to load it more.
Well said.
Yeah.
One question for you, Coach.
Shoot.
Would you like to show the folks at home your ping pong ball trick?
I don't think they're ready for that.
Then only for bachelor parties?
That'd be more for episode 50.
I want to see it today.
I don't think you want to.
They want to see it. The people want to see it.
No,
Let's show it to them.
No, I'm not ready for it.
Just show them.
Here's how it would go.
Show them the position of your ping pong ball trick. I want to show your body position of the ping pong ball
There's no ping pong trick. There is nothing. I am a clean soul. I just saw A Star Is Born. It's a great movie. I didn't cry, but it was sad, and that's what I'm all about. I don't do that craziness stuff that he says.
Show them how to strengthen your rectum. Show them what you do, Coach. Show them how to stretch your kegels. Right there. Right there. All right. This episode took a turn for the worse, so we're going to cut it there. But guys, I hope that this helped. Ruben will be showing you his ping pong ball trick pretty soon. If you are, yes, and thank you guys for tuning in. Now, if you are looking to shoot us some of your questions, you could shoot us a DM on Instagram. I am at Chris_Tutela, Tutela. You could also email me, chris@tutelatraining.com. Or where could you find this guy?
Guys, you can find me on Instagram at _Ruben, RUBEN, _Borges, BORGES. Guys, you have me any questions, shoot me a follow, ask me anything, and we'll bring it up on the show.
Just don't ask him to see his ping pong ball.
Yeah, don't ask me that, because then you will get a video. Bro.
It's like a German Scheisse video.
It's like, that's not a ping pong, that's a softball.
Jesus Christ. All right, guys, so we will catch you next week on another episode of
TTS Talk.
Catch you next week. Peace.
Boom, boom.
Why don't you show me?